Hello, probers.
Howdy, howdy.
Welcome to another episode of But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast brought to you by two former MIBs, allegedly truthfully. I'm your host today, Granny Moonwalker, and sitting opposite me is Kevin the Grey Bearded One.
I don't think I've ever heard you refer to yourself as Granny.
Never.
Also, I'm pretty sure you said podcast, which I like the sound of.
Did I?
Could be my hearing. Technically, I'm 3 rums in.
Probecast.
We debated that as a title for this podcast, actually.
We did.
Probecast.
Way back when.
The probe. We also debated doing one on ghosts, but you didn't want to, and the title of that was going to be Spookies.
You will also find I still don't want to. For one time only, I am Granny Moonwalker. Hello! I'm not doing the episode in that voice.
Street Granny Moonwalker.
Today, we are going to the streets. The city of angels.
Angel.
Los Angeles, California.
Woo!
It's late 1972, early 1973. We're going for a time period, not just
Okay.
one
I was going to ask
date.
which one it is.
Saw the look on your face, the confusion.
Yeah, I've lost my mind already.
So some meetings took place between some representatives of the US Air Force and some
Air Force.
well-respected and very well-connected Hollywood figures. The reps from the Air Force would also state that the Hollywood figures would have access and cooperation from both the US Navy and the US Army. Allegedly, truthfully. Hollywood, son!
This ain't Scientology, is it?
It's Hollywood!
Okay, we've got a picture of Hollywood in the research notes, the famous Hollywood sign with a lightning strike in the background. I've never seen that one.
It's a sign. So what would you say your favourite film or 3 favourite films are of all time?
You can't put me on the spot like that. I need like 5 minutes to think about it.
I will, and I did.
So, personal favourite or what I consider to be the greatest films? Personal favourite, I assume.
Personal favourite.
Because we've established that the Denzel Washington film Fallen, I absolutely love. I'm not saying it's the best film ever, but it just does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love that.
Watched that the other week.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to this one, but the first one that came to mind, Inception. That is one of my favourites.
Okay.
Love Inception. And the next one that came to my mind was The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise in. I really enjoyed that. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it. I might push that out for something like Wayne's World, first Wayne's World, the first Austin Powers. That's a classic. Gosh damn. I'm not going to put Aliens in there.
Ooh.
Great film, but not my personal favourite. If you were going to say, Kev, stick on your favourite film, that wouldn't be the one I stick on. It's up there, really good film, but can I think about this whilst you tell me yours?
Yep. Scarface, Peter Jackson's King Kong, and Heat.
What? That was so quick. What? Can you think about it some more? Don't you like Free Willy?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't put it up there as my top 3, though. I absolutely love Scarface because Al Pacino is the greatest actor of all time for me, and Scarface is incredible. Heat, absolute fantastic film, him and Robert De Niro, and you've got that scene between them at the diner, which is just pure cinematography. And then Peter Jackson's King Kong, the greatest love film ever created.
You'd hate me if you knew what my experience of watching that film in the cinema.
I know.
Oh, is
but
it
it's a
on?
love film.
I just thought of another two, and it's the second one that I'm going to mention that's really got me. So Braveheart, great film. I'll watch that if ever I walk in and it's on.
Gladiator.
No. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. If ever that's on TV, I just have to watch the whole thing, and I don't know why. Just I really enjoy that, and it's cheesy as shit today, but yeah, that's a good one. And another one that's more on point for us, the first Independence Day.
Yeah.
I love that film,
Great
and I
film.
know it's not going to win any awards, but I absolutely love it.
If it's on, I'll watch it.
That's one of my top ones, genuinely.
So that's Fallen, Independence Day.
Fallen and Inception are in there for definite.
So Independence Day. You literally said that's one of your top ones.
Yeah, Independence Day might be it. I feel like there's another one similar to Inception that I love that I'm not thinking of.
Shutter Island.
No.
Tenant.
Oh, do you know
Terrible
what?
film, by the
People will
way.
hate me for this because of the accent, but Blood Diamond I really love with Leonardo DiCaprio
Didn't
as
mind
well.
it.
I think that is phenomenal.
Trying to think of the other Inception film.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to that. I'll have to give that some real thought. But
Okay.
definitely Fallen, definitely Inception.
Definitely Independence Day.
Favourite, not best, because that's probably what, a 3-star film, but well, I'd give
What,
it
Independence
4.
Day?
I'd give it 4 at least, yeah.
4,
But
yeah.
for me, it's a 5.
Well, the Hollywood figures in question.
Heat is good.
He is fantastic.
Scarface is great as well. Goodfellas is another one I love.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of The Godfather, but say
I
top three,
prefer,
so the
and
others.
sorry to most of the world here, but I prefer Scarface and Goodfellas to The Godfather. Sorry.
The entirety of The Godfather or Godfather Part 1 or Part 2?
Part 1 and Part 2. I don't include Part 3. Think I fell asleep when I watched it. Part 1 and Part 2 are good, but
Part
just
1 and Part 2 are
for
fantastic.
me personally, I just prefer Scarface was engaging and Goodfellas just, works for me.
I might get a Scarface
I'm
tattoo.
funny.
But yeah, I love Scarface, but Godfather 1 and 2 are better than Goodfellas for me.
We've gone on a massive tangent already.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
good.
you set it up.
It's Hollywood.
Oh,
Nothing
do you
goes
know
to
what?
script.
I don't agree with J.K. Rowling's views, but I do love the Harry Potter franchise, and I think were that not attached to it, I'd possibly think of one of those because I really did love it. Just it's such a shame that it's been tarnished for so many.
I cannot put that film
I know you
as
wouldn't
great.
because Voldemort died.
Yeah, pretty much. The Hollywood figures in question
Men in Black?
were Top Gun Maverick.
Still not seen it.
Oh, you son of a bitch. I
One
watched
day.
it for the second time the other day. Right. The Hollywood figures in question were documentary maker Robert Emenegger and producer Allan Sandler. I have pictures there for you.
Oh, not Sandler with the moustache. The moustache looks so wrong on Adam Sandler. Oh, Allan Sandler. I thought you said Adam Sandler.
No.
I've only just got the joke. Oh, no. I was so caught up in what I thought I heard.
Well, I actually did search for a picture of Allan Sandler, but couldn't find one. So I was like, next best thing.
Stand By Me, great film.
It's okay. The reason these meetings were held was to try to persuade the two of them to make a documentary about the UFO phenomenon and life outside of Earth. In doing so, they would have full cooperation, access to files, which would also include files from the DOD.
This is no way happening.
This is not an offer you're going to receive every day. Is this an offer that you would accept?
To make a documentary with full access to governmental documents.
Yep.
Did I just invent the word governmental?
You may have done, but it sounded good and it rolled off the
Yeah,
tongue well.
It feels right,
So
even if it's wrong.
carry on. It's a word now. Allegedly, truthfully, governmental.
I would love to be in a position, right? If I won the lottery, there's a few things I would love to do. That is up there. I'd love to be given access and to just spend my time making a really good thing. But I'd also, I think I've said this before actually, but I'd love to go out and do actual live paranormal investigations, like have the time and the finances that you didn't have to worry about working your 9 to 5-esque job so to speak. Don't jump in and say that you have to get up at 3 a.m, Mr. Moonwalker. We all know you're a negative little bitch.
Wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to say that I wouldn't be any part of your paranormal investigation.
Well, it doesn't have to be ghosts. It can be other things as well.
Okay,
but
then I am a part.
I would love to just drive all around the country and potentially travel internationally at times and just really put in the mileage and
find out the true history of the stories.
Yeah, delve into the history of places and make a show where you cover the history and then the paranormal side of it and then conclude at the end, kind of like we do, but more in depth and more freely researched.
That'd be
I would love
awesome
to do that. So I would absolutely accept that offer.
Well, it is an offer that they accepted.
Smart.
They were promised footage of a UFO landing which happened in 1971 at Holloman Air Force.
Training day?
The two Hollywood aficionados had worked together multiple times before. However, Robert was very aware of Sandler's shady side.
Okay, we've got an image in there. Oh no, it's Adam Sandler from The Waterboy, without the moustache at least, but looking...
That's some high quality H2O.
Looking like Dr. Leo Sprinkle there. You know who we're talking about if you've heard the show before.
So Sandler had connections with the CIA and FBI.
Because you're putting pictures of Adam Sandler in this continually, my mind is just forgetting that this is not Adam Sandler, and I'm thinking that it's Adam Sandler within Hollywood that's got the connections.
Well,
and is making the documentary.
The thing is, I couldn't find a picture of Allan Sandler, and now with his connections to the CIA and FBI, is there a reason I cannot find pictures of Allan Sandler?
It's a cover-up. They whacked him. They Goodfellas, Tim.
They whacked him.
Rolled him up in a carpet. Are we going to identify anyone else involved in Hollywood?
No.
Okay, the only question I want to ask at this point is, what's your favourite bad film?
Ooh. Like it's in a film that is
it's bad, but you
terrible.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
One that came to mind recently because I wanted to watch it was Bones, which is a horror film with Snoop Dogg in it.
Why am I laughing already? Snoop Dogg is not scary, man.
And
it was in the early 90s.
Waterworld.
I'd put that in my list, yeah.
I watched that as a kid, so...
I think it's considered a terrible film because it flopped so hard, rather than because people have actually sat there and watched it. I mean, it's not the best film ever, admittedly, but I enjoyed it. I'm sorry again.
Same.
I've got awful taste, clearly, but yeah.
I think it was only 11 or 12 when I watched it, so yeah, for me, it's not that bad a film.
Here's a great film. This is Spinal Tap.
Oh.
And if you look at our audio interface, our dial does go all the way up to 11. Yep, legitimately.
That is a great film. I wouldn't put it in my top 3.
Not top 3, but absolutely love it.
I watched Step Brothers the other day. Another classic.
Do you know what? The first Hangover was great. It really was.
Yeah, downhill after.
Yeah,
second wasn't bad.
We lived on the comedy in that film for a long time, our friend group.
Yeah, we did.
You didn't put Predator in. How does that make you feel?
Top 5, not top 3.
What's number 4?
Dumbo.
You didn't put Dumbo in your top 3. You love Dumbo.
No, I know.
Oh, that must be painful for you. You've got a keyring of Dumbo that's looking at me right now, and you didn't put Dumbo in your top 3.
I know, right?
Heat, Scarface, and what was the other one again, sorry?
King Kong.
You put King Kong above Dumbo.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Damn King Kong, son. King Kong and this bitch.
King Kong was not the best thing that I saw that day.
So glad I didn't go see it with you. Why would they pick these two? Well, Rob was a student at UCLA. His thesis was titled The Influence of Motion Pictures on Public Behavior.
Ooh.
Maybe they were trying to shape how people thought without directly telling them. The two of them went to Norton Air Force Base and were taken to a room that was designed so that people couldn't eavesdrop on anything discussed within it. The proposal was made here, and they were also shown footage of government reps meeting alien visitors.
What? That can't be real. There's no way the government would give actual footage of meeting alien visitors to a couple of Hollywood pretenders to release to the public. I mean, you've kind of called bullshit on your own investigation.
These weren't Hollywood pretenders. They were proper, well-connected people within Hollywood.
But I've never heard of them.
Okay, they weren't Spielberg, because Spielberg wasn't about then.
E.T.
But
Spielberg was connected. I've forgotten Close Encounters of the...
Third Kind?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, is it third or fourth? Because there's a film called... Isn't the Fourth Kind a different film about Nome, Alaska that we mentioned on our Nome, Alaska disappearances episode? It is, yes.
Are we going to Google again?
No, we don't need to Google movies. We know everything there is to know. Well, actually, I was saying that jokingly, but you are a pretty solid movie buff. You used to have, I don't know if you still do because times have moved on to Blu-rays since then, and now we're more digital than anything, but you used to have a bedroom literally full of stacks of DVDs. It started out on shelves, but you got so many, the DVDs became shelves themselves.
They literally went from the floor to...
Yeah.
So I think the highest stack went from the floor to 5 foot.
You know that scene
all the way across the wall
in the first Ghostbusters movie with the ghost in the library and the stacks of paper? Basically, your room was that of DVDs, just stacks of DVDs everywhere.
At one point, I had over 3,000.
Bonkers, you love movies.
And they were all in alphabetical order.
Oh, see, I'd have done that too. That's how I'd have done it. Except for where, going back to our earlier comment around Harry Potter, I'd have put them in order 1 to 7 or 1 to 8, whatever it was.
Yeah, I would have done the same for that.
That makes me feel closer to you that you did that.
It's annoying as hell if they weren't.
Well, yeah, some people would categorise them by like comedy, drama, romance, alphabetical order. Otherwise, how are you going to find them?
Exactly.
Norton Air Force Base. Do you reckon that's where they came up with the antivirus?
Quite possibly.
And the boxer, Kenny Norton's son.
Doesn't ring a bell for me. As you can tell, Kid loves boxing.
Yeah, he was kind of a 70s. He was around the same era as Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and George Foreman and whatnot. Really, really, really good fighter. Hit hard as a truck. But because he was around in that era, despite having victories over some of them, people forget about him.
Damn.
Phenomenal fighter. Anyway.
After this, the two of them decided to get to work. They were able to freely go through any files that they wanted. Whilst they were waiting for the footage to be released to them, they would also go and interview or speak to anybody in the military that they wanted. They were able to go anywhere they wanted, and they were also volunteered information and evidence from NASA. Robert would begin to believe that something else was at play here, an ulterior motive maybe. Cooperation from all parts of the military, which was allegedly truthfully ordered by Colonel William Coleman from Project Blue Book.
Ooh.
The contacts that Sandler had, and they were also shadowed by a CIA courier constantly. Robert was also able to get hold of this courier's name, Dick Besky, who was always around.
Dick was always around, except for when he was elongated.
You see this guy Dick, see? He was always around.
You keep saying Robert, but that's not what you've written in your research notes.
Yeah,
and that keeps on catching me, and I freeze for a second. It makes me suspicious, as it did Robert, that he's been given full access to do as Robert pleases. They're like, yeah, sure. That makes me think there's just no way
you'd be given that much free reign.
Maybe they're the ones that are carrying out the experiment and trying to see what the impact would be of releasing such information. And I can't remember if we theorized on that or not, but we may have on one of our early episodes, the Tic Tac UFOs, whether the government were trying to test the waters, so to speak.
Kind of see how the public would react to information.
Yeah, it's an idea.
As they would get to the end of creating the documentary.
Oh, I had another question, damn it.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's a question for you, this one. If you had access to the government's secret files, we're talking everything, what area specifically would you go to?
Aliens. Oh, actually, I don't know. Aliens or assassinations and cover-ups.
That would be one of my later looks, certainly. But first, I think I'd want to see if there's anything on like real monsters or demons and that kind. Demons, yeah.
Nah.
Like, we shot this person 64 times and he started speaking to us in Aramaic.
Demons are real. Aliens and assassinations, son. That's where I'm going. Yeah.
You're going to the AA. I'm sorry for interjecting.
So as they would get to the end of creating the documentary, interviews, testimonies, everything but one thing, the video evidence. Ooh. Well, this was withdrawn without warning after all that time and effort.
Found it too hard to make.
This was just swiped from under them. Robert was pissed and felt that this was a betrayal and that he'd been cheated. Or they'd been cheated, really.
Well, too right, yeah.
Had they really ever planned to hand over the footage to them? Well, the response from the military was that the Watergate scandal changed the political environment to such an extent that releasing the footage would be inappropriate. For those unfamiliar with the Watergate scandal, it was a political scandal involving the Nixon administration, which led to the resignation of President Nixon. The Nixon administration were attempting to cover up their involvement of a break-in of the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate office building.
I'm so glad you explained that, because you know how some people, everyone's different, some people just have a mental block about certain things. Like some people, no matter how many times they study it, they just can't work out long division. Some people just can't retain the name of a X-Men villain that eats planets.
Galactus.
Some people can't retain a certain cousin's name. For me, I can never remember exactly what the Watergate scandal was, other than involving Nixon and resulting in his party or his administration going kaput.
To be honest, I had no idea what it was, but we're not American.
It's not taught in England, so apologies to those in other countries whereby this is second nature knowledge. It's just not something that's taught over here, and I've looked up its skirt several times. I've read through descriptions and searched it, but for some reason it just doesn't stick in my mind. I've got a mental block for it. I'm just trying to remind myself if I had any questions about the bit you've just explained to me. They withdrew the video evidence. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to wonder whether they were testing their reactions to written evidence for a military experiment, and they never planned to show them video evidence, or whether they tried to make video evidence, but at this time it was too difficult to do. And then they were like, nah, let's forget about that. Forget about it. We've done enough.
I see where you're coming from.
Neither is making me think that they really had access to true documents. I find that so unlikely.
Well, what happened to all the information they'd already gathered, I hear you ask?
Redacted.
Well, the documentary went on to be released in 1974 and was called UFOs Past, Present and Future, along with a book.
I feel like I've heard of this.
The absence of the footage was huge, but the information within, considering those within the military that it came from, was still eye-opening.
Okay, we have an image. Wait, did you say this was a book or a documentary?
It's a documentary and a book.
Ah, there we go. I was looking at it, I was like, the right-hand image you're showing me here, UFOs Past, Present and Future, looks like a book, but the left looks like a poster for a movie. That looks like a movie.
A movie.
Okay, that book on the right looks really familiar.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like, not me personally, but like in my household as a child, I can remember specifically there was one book of a similar colour that had loads of pictures of like aliens seen through history, and I didn't remember that was in the house until quite recently, but I can remember vividly now looking at it as a really little child. I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, and the book was years before I was a little kid. Like, it's an old book, probably came from like one of my grandparents or something, I don't know, but I can specifically remember that book and flicking through that book and think there was a hairy alien in there, a hairy big guy that looked freaky as shit and used to freak me out as like a really little kid. Definitely remember that one. And this book also looks familiar, but I don't have a definite memory. It just looks really familiar from that same sort of batch of memories.
I think I might have seen this in our high school library, to be fair.
That's also a possibility, as we went to the same high school. That's where I could have seen it, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure where I've seen it, but I definitely feel like I've seen that. Not saying I've read it as an adult. Definitely haven't.
I've not read it. Just the cover looks really familiar.
I've debated before whether we should turn our research notes into a little book ourselves. It would be a lot of work to do it.
Hell of a lot.
To sort of present it to a novel audience rather than presenting it to each other as we do with the podcast. But we could make a pretty big book covering all the alien cases.
Would you do it as a book or like a mini-series? So you'd have, for example, 5 podcast episodes and then have them as research notes into a book done in comic format?
At this point, we've probably covered too many to do in one book. I'd have liked to. Maybe we do like episode 1 to 50 in one book, or episode 1 to 100 in one book.
1 to 25.
Your eyes are green, son. So I'm looking at it as a passion project.
I'm looking at it as less work.
It's a comic.
Busy.
Well, to be fair, if we illustrated, that would be more work, but it's a poster. We'll make a poster.
Within the documentary, there is some footage inside. In the doc, there is a dramatic reconstruction of the UFO landing footage, which has original military UFO landing footage in it. It's unclear how Robert got that in there, but he said that the Air Force was aware of it and that they authorized it.
But they just said that they didn't show them any video footage. And now they're saying they've got video footage that was authorized after specifically saying that they weren't shown any... What?
So they were shown some before, but they didn't have it authorized to be released.
Withdrew, yet they've gained access.
For it to be released. Like you can be shown it, but then having authority to release it.
Robert!
Hey, Rob.
I feel like you're misleading us slightly there, Robert.
And that is all we have on this story.
Which we spent most of speaking about movies.
Yeah, why not? So to summarize, we have the allegedly true account of how this real-life documentary got made. There were secret meetings between military reps and the Hollywood director-producer duo of Robert Emenegger and Allan Sandler. They were enticed by footage that they were promised and full access to any files that they wanted. They accessed files, interviewed higher-ups and those in the military. They had support from the Navy, Army, and even NASA. When they got the bits that they wanted, the rug was pulled out from under them, and the video footage they were promised was no longer there. They were told due to the Watergate scandal, the political landscape had changed as a reason to not give them access. There were some things going on behind the scenes which made Robert think something else was going on, as they were tailed by CIA courier Dick Benke. They put the doc out anyway and accompanied it with a book.
Yeah, there's nothing I need to double back on there. I'm pretty clear in my mind.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is this the making of a documentary from the military to steer the masses? Or is this the making of a documentary from 2 Hollywood peeps using the story of the military and access to make their documentary bigger than what it was? Or do you have another thought? I guess, did the military want this or just take part in it?
I went to answer each of those hypothetical questions, and just as I went to answer, you started asking another one. I think I have another thought. So I think it's... I mean, do I conclude here and then explain, or do I explain and then conclude? So I'm not saying that it was aliens. I think that it's the making of a documentary from two Hollywood peeps. Did you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm not convinced that the military ever gave them access. I feel like they might have invented that element themselves because they're Hollywood peeps. They're looking to make $1. I mean, through entertainment, I'm not criticising. So it's kind of like, again, I think we might have mentioned this earlier, or if not, we mentioned it in a recent episode, the Nome, Alaska thing, when they advertised the Fourth Kind movie as a documentary, sort of based on real footage and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So you think like this was the original of that? Yeah,
they've kind of done a similar thing and misled people as part of the entertainment. I mean, the Blair Witch Project was advertised as...
real?
Yeah, and it was all the better for it.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's where this one came from for me.
So for me, I feel that the military did have a hand in this, but not as much as we think. I think they allowed access to certain people rather than certain files. So the documentary makers were allowed to ask certain people questions, and then those people gave answers that they wanted. But those answers may have been steered from people from behind the scenes in the military to get their agenda across, rather than to put the truth out there. I've not seen the documentary myself. It was like an hour and a half long.
Sometimes we ain't got that time.
I just didn't have that time to watch it. So I'm going from not seeing the documentary to saying that I think these two filmmakers wanted to put something out. They were given access to certain military personnel who may or may not have been in the positions that they were in. So they may have been told that they were higher up in the military than they actually were. They gave their accounts, which was to skew the story in the military's favour.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree.
Was it aliens? No.
Nah.
But what I do have at the end of this is a short quiz.
Oh no.
A mini quiz, let's say.
Oh, you know I struggle with quizzes.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe a film in a few words, and you have to tell me what the film is.
You know I really struggle with films.
I've made this so easy, it's unreal.
I'm going to get them all wrong, you watch.
Film 1. Aliens arrive, man punches alien, quips, virus uploaded, we win.
Welcome to Earth! Independence Day.
There we go. Number 2. Woman board ship, crew attacked, they mostly come out at night.
Aliens.
There we go. 3. Big men enter jungle, men die, one survives, gets cold, wins.
Predator.
Boy meets creature, they poke. They ride a bike and fly.
E.T. the extraterrestrial, yeah.
Family lands on Earth, shenanigans ensue, and they find a way home.
Family lands on Earth?
I will admit this one's a lot harder than the rest.
I mean, when you said family, I immediately thought you were going to talk about signs, but you said family lands on Earth.
Who is stumped?
Is it a recent one or a really old one?
No, same kind of time. Actually, I'd probably say late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, I'm definitely not going to get this then.
Do you want me to say it?
Never. But...
Do.
Oh, that hurts.
Mac and Me.
Do you know what? I don't think I've ever seen Mac and Me.
Damn, son.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Shape appears, people enter shape, ink on a window, story told.
Ah, we watched that one together quite recently, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
What's it bloody called? Arrival?
There we go.
That's a really good film.
That's a fantastic film.
And probably the most realistic of all those films, actually.
There we are. From someone that, I'm not going to get films. 5 out of 6 is not bad at all.
But they're old films that I've seen. I haven't seen many new ones.
Well, they were all alien films. And, all right, fine. I'll make it harder next time.
You always make it hard. Oh, no.
And on that bombshell, thank you for joining us for this week's episode. You can find us on Facebook at But It Was Aliens. Our Facebook group is Extraterrestrial Towers. Our Instagram is But It Was Aliens Podcast. And we're also on Twitter at But It Was Aliens. But anything outside of the extraterrestrial for now, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/But It Was Aliens. As always, I have been the Walker of Moons, and he has been the grey-bearded one. Remember, the truth is up there. #.